You, as you said, Catholic background, and you got saved on a church on the Shankill Road, or the Shankill area at least, which is kind of infamous in Northern Ireland as being the most hardline Protestant area pretty much there is.
I was born in Hardline, do you know what I mean? Which is the opposite side of the pipe. Yeah. With the riots would meet, and then, you know, the Catholics and the Protestants, the Irish and the British would, you know,
yeah, have a big fight basically. Yeah.
Already when you're cycling home to school, people are throwing rocks and stones at you. Know, I got it was like £500, and I was looking at like, this could get me food.
Right.
This land on eBay cost much less than it should right now, so I bought the lands, dealt with the hunger for another like 5 days or so.
What were the negative sides of that then? You said that took you down a dark path. What did that actually look like?
Sounds mad. I've always said this for years, even though I wasn't religious, but I saw an angel. The only word to describe it is divine. Like, wow, it's divine light in the corner of that room. So I was sitting there, I was like, get up. Yeah. Again, because like there's that insecurity when you're going to church, you stand out, you want to stick out like a sore thumb, or you want to hide away, but something was in me like, get up. That just happened. And then one of the older ladies from church came up to me and said, are you okay? And then that's when whoa. It happened, but I'm Christian, I'm saved. I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah. So Ged, you are a influencer, TikToker, Instagrammer, all of that stuff, content creator, and very recently was in the Northern Irish news. You came to faith from the Catholic side of the community and ended up coming to faith in a church that's in a well-known Protestant part of the community here in Belfast. So keen to hear about your story. So just start off by saying a little bit about like your upbringing. Did you grow up in a religious context? Did you grow up with any Christianity in the background or anything like that?
Yeah, I specifically like how you say content creator. It's like absolutely hate the word influencer. That's something I was battling for the last like 2 years. If people keep saying like, oh, you're an influencer, a TikToker, like, no, I'm not here to influence anyone. I just like making videos.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But I've always been that way for the longest time. But when it comes to my upbringing, like it's strange because none of our family is religious, but the entire time I was growing up, I would always say I'm a Catholic, but that's only really because of the ties here in Northern Ireland. Like if I'm Irish, then that means I'm automatically a Catholic. And if you're if you're British, you identify as a Protestant. And most times we don't actually practice that faith or that religion or that belief. So yeah, for me growing up, it was never really something that was ever talked about, you know, because we believe religion to be just a set of rules to oppress people, or to like, you know, people live in Delulu land, like where they're just, you know, reading this 2,000-year-old book that doesn't make sense in today's context. And it's mad like how I've come to faith now and all this stuff starting to make more sense than anything that ever was taught previously is starting to make sense.
Yeah, very good. So what was your life like then, like prior to coming to faith? So you said it wasn't a religious upbringing that you had. Would you have had some like church awareness, and then what was your sort of general day-to-day life like you got into content creation and all of that stuff? What was that journey like?
Well, my expectation of what church was mass, you know,
right?
I'm Catholic, so I think, you know, mass, because it's like, you know, when you grow up in a Catholic school, like you have to learn RE, learn religion, all that stuff, and I think when you're forced to do something, it makes you have less interest in it, especially when you're coming from a side where you don't believe it in your heart. And so we would go to mass the odd time, you know, when you have confirmations and communions, all that there sort of stuff. So for me, mass just seemed like, stand up, sing a few hymns, and I can't even hear the priest, don't know what he's saying, right. You know? So it's not something that ever really resonated with me. And it's mad to see like the switch, like right. It's all like it's so different when you're going to church and you actually feel like you're in the presence of God, for me anyway, you know, because I never really, maybe it'd be different now because I have a relationship with Jesus, but yeah, when I was growing up, there was no expectation of religious belief playing any part in my life. But for me, I was always seeking something higher because I just had a lot of stuff going on in my childhood. Now I realized it was very traumatic and it was carrying with me my whole life. I'm not getting into detail, but there was just a lot of stuff that was going on that really, like, you know, I started cutting my wrist, suicidal tendencies, all this sort of stuff. And realistically, like, I should have been a statistic before I was 18, you know, but I never was. And it's amazing to think like there was a time in my life whenever, sorry to get off, but like,
no,
it's mad just to think there was a time in my life where I hated the world, I hated the idea of existence, I hated living, like I was suicidal, I hated the world, hated everything. And now that I see it, I see the world not from what the world says that I am and what I believe they think about me, but seeing it from the perspective of I'm created in God's image and He loves me so much that He sent His only Son to die for me. and waking up every morning, you know, you breathe life into my lungs, and now I could go through every day like, wow, what a blessing life really is, because I see it as a gift now, and it's a gift that I wouldn't take for granted. And so it was a long journey going from, I was basically homeless when I was 19. I got in a big thing. We always had these like problems growing up, and basically left home when it was during my A-levels, my A-level exams, and sofa surfing, and then I got my uncles. He moved into a new house. I was just sleeping on a busted air mattress for I think it was a month and a half, 6 weeks or so. But the depression was so bad that like I didn't have any money. I just came back from the trip to Poland with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and I was just really struggling mentally. I wasn't eating because I had no money, and I didn't ever ask for handouts. I hated that idea. I never ever asked for help, and I was sleeping on the bus air mattress for 16 hours a day sometimes because I was just so depressed, and I was trying to avoid the pain of hunger, you know. And but I always felt this commitment to like content creation. I remember I ended up getting a last minute job as a wedding photographer, so I got like, it was like £500, and I was looking at like, this could get me food.
Right.
This lens on eBay cost much less than it should right now, so I bought the lens, dealt with the hunger for another like 5 days or so, and then stuff started to pick up again, and started working a job in Domino's and started delivering pizzas. And I remember when I was sleeping on that bus air mattress, thinking like I was so jealous, and not even jealous, I was envious of people that had faith, because I knew even in that moment when I wasn't religious at all, I was envious of people that had a relationship with Jesus, because even in those darkest moments, you know, when someone's there for you, like everyone around you can tell you, like say it, but like, and you use your brain to process like what people are saying, in the sense people say, no, I'm here for you and all that sort of stuff. But if you don't have it in your heart, you don't feel it in your heart, and it feels like you are alone. And even the heart, just making realize like that's the difference between a relationship with Jesus and a relationship with the world. It just hits different, like. But I just always had this mad passion for storytelling, content creation, and that stuck with me all my life. Just love photography, love capturing moments. Even throughout all my childhood, people were getting annoyed, so I was lifting my phone up and taking memories. But to look back now, 10 years later, it's like, oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, I just like the idea of capturing moments and telling stories, and that's why, you know, River really fell into the whole influencer thing. Like I just really wanted to tell stories, but then as a result of doing all that, the attention came in, and all the bad things came with that, and that's what really drove me down a path. It just needed me to self-destruction, really.
Mm-hmm. So what did that look like? Like you came from, obviously, that was a difficult period of your life. God, I think looking back on it, do you view that as God intervening and sort of providentially like guiding you out of that? And even though it didn't start with salvation, there's a sense of like provision and stuff. Yeah. Then you end up being pretty successful at what you did, right? And you know, making good money and stuff like that. What were the negative sides of that then? You said that took you down a dark path. What did that actually look like?
Yeah, so even just on that point, it's only like you can only connect the dots backwards.
Sure, yeah.
It's like that whole thing of like, even though I wasn't walking with him, he was always walking with me and protecting me and guiding me. And, you know, even though I went down a dark path, people would say, well, what was God on? It's like, I made my own decisions. At the end of the day, I decided to stay away from God and focus on just doing my own thing and leaning on my own understanding, you know. And that was something that it ended up taking me down that dark path. But there was like even moments whenever I was like, I think I was 22 actually, I had a panic attack.
Right. And
I was like lying in bed. Life was okay. Like I was still struggling with a lot of stuff, and my dad was living with me at the time, and I was being the father in our relationship. It was really brutal, and had this panic attack that came over me, and I'd never had one before, but I was paralyzed with fear in my bed for about half an hour, tears streaming down my face, couldn't move. And then it was sounds mad. I've always said this for years, even though I wasn't religious, but I saw an angel. Like, not even a saw, but I felt it was there in the corner, and it was like this, like, the only word to describe it is divine. Like, I don't know, it was a divine light in the corner of that room. And I couldn't like see the face of the angel, it was just blocked with light. But in that moment, it was like I felt forgiveness in my heart. And this is like 4 years ago now. Like, I wasn't religious at all. I didn't know what it was, but it was in that moment that I was released from all the hate that I had in my heart, and like anger at the world and anger at my parents. Like, why did they do this to me? And why me? And I was always a victim of the world, you know. But it was in that moment I was able to forgive them and see it from their perspective, you know. Right. Where it was from their family, it's always coming down, you know, like whatever they struggle with, they end up not intentionally like doing it themselves while trying to do the best they can. And that's what really started putting me on this whole self-development journey after I seen the angel. Right. And it's smart to like, you can only connect those dots when you look backwards, because even though I wasn't Christian, I've always said there was an angel in the corner that took me out of that panic attack. Yeah. And give me this mad understanding in my heart that I didn't have before. So when it came to like getting finally, achieving. I'm always the type of person that, like, if I put my mind to something, I will accomplish it. Like, I've always had that drive and that passion. But I started getting everything that I desired, everything that I wanted. And, I remember years ago thinking, how much of people knew who I was, because I was always wanted to be like a content creator, storyteller, YouTuber, whatever that may have been.
Sure.
And I ended up eventually accomplishing it, ended up making really good money and flying around the world with Red Bull and doing all stuff with big brands. I'm going out and night out. Hundreds of people are asking me for photos. I'm getting the attention. It's all going to my head. I start getting my teeth done. I get my hair looking good. I'm starting to look fresh.
Your teeth look great, by the way. Yeah.
Start going to the gym. I'm really improving my body and all. And it was like, I am now the peak of the person that I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Like, that skinny, insecure kid would be so proud right now. But pride is the root of all evil.
Right.
That pride really started driving me down, thinking, not that I never thought it was better than anyone, because I look back and I think that my heart was always in the right place. It was just the company I was surrounding myself with.
Right.
And that company was, not that, like, I have my own responsibilities as well, but we all just egged each other on and doing stuff, seeing the world in the way the world sees it,
Sure.
Just like getting all the attention and women and all that there sort of stuff. And what came from that was like the momentary high, but at night time, just sitting in bed, sometimes crying, thinking, what is the meaning of this? What is the point of this? And my background is like, I used to work in a clothing brand called Outside In, and it's a clothing brand that, I joined in like 2018, and there was like 2 people, and the whole point of it is to give a hope to people experiencing homelessness. Like, we would go out in the streets regularly to, talk to people experiencing homelessness, and like that gave me so much joy in my heart, and that resonated with me because of my past experience. And I knew what that joy was, and there was like that goodness in that joy, but like the what I was feeling from the highs of everything the world was giving me was different from that joy, if you know what I mean. It was like that. It was like a momentary happiness compared to an inner joy that was in my heart from giving to other people and giving myself for living for others, whereas I was living for myself. I was selfish, and just focusing on me, the views, the attention, the money, all that there stuff was all about me all the time. And that's why sometimes I was lying in bed back in April of last year, and I'd be scrolling through TikTok and seeing videos of people experiencing homelessness, and like people giving them money and like, having these conversations and blessing people, and people on the outside are looking at me thinking, well, he has everything, but I'm not in bed crying my eyes out thinking, what's wrong? My heart is broken. Something's not right here. And it just led that path of like self-destruction. You're just partying 4 or 5 nights a week. You're living it up in a penthouse, tallest building in Ireland. Like, you've got other people around you doing similar stuff. And I never had a party scene when I was growing up. I never went to uni. I was always focused on work and just kind of bettering myself and all that there sort of stuff. And so I never had that blowout stage. And I had that blowout stage. And it was just kind of like, whoa, this is not it. It's not something I would even want to do in mediation anymore. Moderation, sorry. Because I know the goodness of God now.
So you had that journey of, really, seeing success, internally struggling. At some point you end up going to church, but just prior to that, were you at that point thinking religion might be an answer? Were you exploring like Christianity or other religions, or were you getting into, was it like Jordan Peterson type stuff or whatever? Was there anything like that was that a gradual thing, or suddenly out of the blue you just ended up going to church?
So when I've always been quite inquisitive in that sense, like trying to, the self-improvement, self-development, all that sort of stuff. And for me, I was never political. I didn't really try to focus on all of those sort of aspects of life. I think it just kind of draws away from, trying to focus on yourself and start attaching beliefs to the politics. And I was rather just let's just build myself in the best version of myself I can become. Okay. And part of that is new spirituality. It gets you like a lot of the sweetness that you want, in your head, because we're living selfishly. I was living selfishly. I was thinking, well, I want to manifest. Like, well, if I start thinking, thoughts become things, and then magically zap stuff in my life. And I ended back now thinking how foolish I was to think that just because someone told me that's what truth was. Right. So I was always just seeking truth, something higher to give myself to. And I thought it was new spirituality, thinking, waking up in the morning, thank you, universe. Who am I thinking? There's no soul. There's no one to thank. All that there sort of stuff. And that's why whenever I started feeling those emotions, I realized like there's something there that religion can't give me, and it's something there that new spirituality can't give me, because the Saturn Runes doesn't give you peace in your heart, and so that's I was actually at that time as well, I was like really broken hearted, because I was in a relationship for 8 years, and then just before, like as I was getting into that whole scene, we broke up. It was absolutely fine. There was no like petrol. Sure. It was just to focus on the work basically, and slipped into the lifestyle, unfortunately. And it was only around that time, like 10 months later, I started processing that breakup, and the heartache was really, really bad. So it was like all this stuff like just happening all at once, where like I'm watching these videos, I'm thinking, what's wrong with me? And like my heart's sore, it's really sore, you know? And I thought it was like, oh, I need to get her back. Like that's what's going to fill me and get me, not like complete me again, you know what I mean? But then I watched that movie, Jesus Revolution, and as I was watching that, something like overcame me throughout the movie. I just started to feel like crying throughout it. I was like, what is this? So you know, I have no religious upbringing, no context of what the emotions I'm feeling are. And then God sent to be blessing in my life, called me back in. And I think, you know, she ended up inviting me to church, and whenever I was looking at her, I was seeing it really different, because I was seeing, I had blinders on, I was blinded by the world, I was seeing people in the way the world sees people, you know. But then whenever I started like seeing this girl, we weren't serious, whatever, we started with a friendship, you know, but I could see she was moving different to everyone else. And it's now I can look back and see like the reason why I ended up actually nicely falling for it was because I seen God in her. It wasn't because I seen her the way the world wants us to see it, you know, and you know, it's pure like vanity and, you know, that perspective, how we're supposed, like the world expects us to see women and all that sort of stuff. But I saw God in her, and it was different. So when she invited me to church, I was like, right, I'll give it a go. Sure. Because I went to church like 4 years ago with the guy that ran outside in, and didn't like it at all. Okay. You know, people raising their hands, worshiping and all. I was like, oh, he's all weird. So strange. What is that? So I just didn't go back basically. But I gave it a chance. And, felt like I had accountability this time. I feel like that's so important. Like you need accountability. People think they're trying to force you to believe on them and stuff, but like she knew the gift that she had, and she wanted to share that with me because she knew the pain I was experiencing. So that's why it's like, come to church. You need that accountability. So I just kept coming to church. But what kept coming me back was the teaching of the pastor as well. Right. And because he's from a council estate too, very similar background to me, you know, he was partying, drugs, you know, a lot of bad stuff. You could see it when he was like 25 or 26. And his life just changed, and he just repented, turned around, but was God. And so it was every week coming back, people trying to use that against me now. It's like, you're going to go for the girl, but like, if I didn't like it, I wouldn't be in, you know? But I was, as I said, I'm inquisitive, I'm always seeking truth. Like I do think we are always seeking something higher to give ourselves to lend ourselves to. And I felt like maybe this is what it is. And I was trying everything in the world. Even before that, I was looking into different religions just to have a basic understanding. But whenever you're going into church and you're eyeballing my eyes out every single week, and you know, a month after going, like we were driving, I started after church, I started breaking out again, like crying. It was just a joke running through crying all the time. It's like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. It's just like, I said to her about how my whole life has just been so tumultuous and like so much pain, and I never really felt settled. I never really felt at home. But when I was in church for the first time ever, I felt like I was at home. Not because it was in the shackle, not because it was in church, not because it was with the girl, because it was in the presence of God. It's the first time I ever felt as if I was at home. And that's what kept coming me back, making me continue to come back to church. It wasn't the girl or nothing. It was the teaching, and it wasn't an emotion, because it wasn't an emotion that I'd ever felt before. It was something different. God convicted me and pulling me in, and you know, using that heartbreak and all that other stuff that I was experiencing to pull me closer, because it's when you're at your heights that you feel like you don't need them most. Well, it's when you're at your lows, it's God's opportunity to be like, I can fix you, I can give you, I can heal you and take out all the bad and compound the good. And that's what kept coming back.
So you started going to church, you met this girl, Rebecca, you go for her, she keeps inviting you, but you also want to go back because God's doing something, like speaking to you. When it comes to actually then becoming a Christian, right? Because there's a difference between going to church and becoming a Christian. Was there for you a moment of like conscious decision? Some people it looks like that. For me, it looked like that. For others, it's more like a realization of, oh, I actually believe this now. And it's almost like, when did that happen? It just sort of, you just realize after the fact. How did that look like for you? So
I get saved after 2 months of going to church, but I think it's important to know that I know, looking back, God's been working on me since that moment I was homeless. Right. Since I cried out being like, I'm so envious of people that are religious, you know. And so it's been a journey of 6 odd years, realistically. Like, it took me 2 months from going to church to get saved, but God's working on me for a long time. So whenever I was starting to go to church again, I had no biblical understanding at all. Right. No idea what anything meant, really. I was just learning something new. Really. Like, this is like, that's again, that's the teaching. I'm like, everything that he's teaching, it's good. You know what I mean? Like, the world like is so selfish and stuff, and it's all about us, but this is something different, you know? And so it came to January 7th, and pastor was just God was moving in that room that day, you know, and at the end of the service, Pastor like he's doing songs or playing or whatever, and said he wants to pray for people, not even necessarily see people saved, but if I want to pray for it, like come up and blah blah blah. So I was sitting there, I was like, get up again, because like there's that insecurity when you're going to church, you want to stand out, you want to stick out like a sore thumb, or you want to hide away, but something was in me like, get up. And I said, it's like, it's the bravest step I ever took in my life, just simply standing up and going up to get prayed for, because my experience of playing it, get prayed for, is blessing the mass, you know, get blessed. As this was a prayer, and a couple of people went up, so I was like, I'll go up. So I went up, and he started praying over me. I had no intention of getting saved, but I was just in that moment, as he's praying over me, just this overwhelming sense of joy, happiness, peace, everything that I ever was seeking for in my life. All the answers just started to, it just all came to me in that moment. I felt my body just being cleansed from the feet to the tip of my head. My hands start lifting for the first time ever. My head lifts to the heavens. You know, tears are streaming down my face. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm excited, I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. I genuinely had no clue what was happening. And that's just all that running through my body. And I got lost in time. You know, I thought I was only up there for 2 minutes, and there was a big row of us who were getting prayed for. But, you know, by the time I opened my eyes, I turned around, it was up there for like 10 minutes. Everyone already sat down. I was there with God in that moment, you know. And I went and sat down in the corner, and I was like, what just happened? And then one of the older ladies from church came up to me and said, are you okay? And then that's when I broke out crying, just saying, it happened. I'm a Christian, I'm saved. And I didn't even know what that meant. You know?
Yeah.
And I was going to go up to Rebecca's house. We still weren't dating at this point, you know what I mean? But you know, to actually ask her about what do you think about me asking your daughter or the girlfriend and stuff. She was like, back to the cut, like, yeah, you know, I nothing against it, but I just don't agree with it.
Sure,
know?
Yeah.
Which I knew was going to be an answer.
Sure.
Back now thinking, I don't even know what Rebecca was thinking. Me, you know?
Flirt to convert is what they call it, you know?
I don't know what she was thinking, like, because looking back, like, yeah, definitely still unequally yoked, but I was in that moment experiencing like getting saved, and we were going to go up to their house to have dinner and stuff. I think that he's up there in the moment, so I went in the car, immediately like just broke out in tears. I didn't even know what I was experiencing, but I started praying like, God, please give this to my friends, give this to my family. I don't know what this is, but this is something else. Like, thank you so much for giving me this. And I was like just praying to him, and then and I called my mom just first thing, being like, Mom, I know this isn't going to make sense, but I'm a Christian. You know, I don't really know what any of that meant. But I just knew in that moment there was just like a realization, like I experienced truth, and everything just started to make sense. It was in that moment it all started clicking, and I felt like for years I was walking in the path that Jesus would want us to walk, but I wasn't walking with him, you know, in terms of like where my heart was. It was just getting corrupted by the badness of the world, but I knew deep down in my heart it was good. And it was just like a lot of toxic things were coming in, because good company, you know, bad company corrupts your character. And that's exactly what was happening. Like, I knew I had a good heart, and people always say that to me, and people would always question, like, why'd you let this person do that to you and stuff? So I always give people the benefit of the doubt until they like do me wrong, and then even then I'll still give them the benefit of the doubt, you know? And but like through all of this, it's like I'm maturing now in Jesus, not in the way though, and I think that's the maddest part about it as well. Experience of salvation. It's like you have 25 years of unlearning to do. You know, like you're the way the world is taught, ingrained to you when you're growing up. Like, I wasn't really taught the Bible, wasn't really taught true Christianity, not religion, but a relationship with Jesus. First time I ever heard about that was back in December. You know, none of that, never heard any of those terms before, even though I was an Irish Catholic, you know, and it's a big thing here in Northern Ireland, and there's a lot of talk about religion all the time, but no idea what salvation was, no idea what you had to be like, you need to be born again, then to the kingdom of heaven and all this here sort of stuff. Like, didn't know what any of that was, but in that moment I knew I was saved, you know. And I remember a couple of weeks prior, because I was crying for 2 months, I was in London walking through town, and for some reason I was listening to this random podcast about this service some guy was giving, and funny enough, he in that service was talking about, I had a friend ask him, like, how do I know if I'm saved? And that's something I started questioning, because he said in the podcast, like, you will know when you're saved, because I was questioning, like, am I saved? Like, am I Christian? Like, I don't really know.
Sure. And
then I knew I was saved, and you experience it. Like, you can't even put it into words properly, but in that moment, it's like the truth's been revealed to you, and you see the word differently. And I remember that time I get home, and again, living in the Old Tower, and I see all the Belfast. First time ever, it's like the first time ever I looked out those windows, and like the scales were removed from my eyes, and I saw for what it was, and just how much hurt and how broken and misled and misguided people are. And that's when, like, it was even in that moment, the first day I got saved, I was like, I'm going all in for God, because I know what he saved me from, and I would love for other people to experience that too.
Right, so there's an interesting part to your story, which those who are not from Northern Ireland will not fully understand, but you, as you said, Catholic background, and you got saved on a church on the Shankill Road, or the Shankill area at least, which is kind of infamous in Northern Ireland as being the most hardline Protestant area pretty much there is. Explain that context a wee bit for people from like your perspective. So growing up in a Catholic context, would you have gone into the Shankill? Would you have viewed it as something that was, you know, appropriate? What did that look like for you?
It's funny you mention that, because it's weird. Like now, like I don't really care anymore. But like when you're growing up, like I was born in Ireland, do you know what I mean? Which is the opposite side of the Shankill.
Yeah.
Where there would be the riots would meet, and you know the Catholics and the Protestants, the Irish and the British would, you know, meet for
have a big fight basically. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's the cultural context there, you know, and being from there and stepping over the other line, I would never, ever in my life do that. You know, like I would like cycle down to school and you would cross into Protestant areas, and already when you're cycling on the school, people are throwing rocks and stones at you, know, and if I walk too far up the old Park Road, like I'm now in a Protestant area, people are chasing me and, you know, getting beat up just because I'm a Catholic, you know, like that's, but again, we use our religion we attach it with our nationality here. Yeah. So if you're Irish, you're a Catholic. If you're British, you're a Protestant. You might not even practice religion, but that's just the word that we've grown up in.
Yeah, very good. So you came from that side and you got saved. Now you're not terming yourself, I think in a Northern Irish context, there's no point in trying to use the terms Protestant and Catholic for believing Christians. So you were saying Christian. I think I heard your pastor actually say that you even call yourselves a Protestant church, Christian church, right? Yeah. Nonetheless, how has the sort of Catholic side of the community viewed what you've done? Have they viewed that as you becoming a Protestant, or have they been like totally open and welcoming and gone, that's great for you, like they recognize it for something different, or how have they perceived that the way?
It's funny because I never heard like anyone ever talk about religion or faith until I started making content about it, and then all of a sudden everyone had an opinion. You know? Because I made it, one of my first videos I made was, does anyone, and keep in mind, I'm coming from the fact that someone is an Irish Catholic growing up, but no one practices it, no one talks about it in our generation. Religion is just, there's a gap, no one talks about faith here, you know? So I made a video from my perspective talking about, does anyone even practice Catholicism anymore? Because I was talking more in the video about like Christianity and like turn away religion in favor of a relationship with Christ. And there was a whole response. All of a sudden, everyone was, don't attack my faith. And I'm looking at them like people from my similar age saying, like, no one, you don't even go to mass.
Right, yeah.
But because I'm asking the question, does anyone even practice Catholicism anymore? People here take it as an attack, you know, because they're Irish. Meanwhile, they don't practice their faith, you know. So that's why I continuously try to tell people, like, that's why I love where I go, because the pastor's very much always talking about religious division, you know, but relationship with Jesus brings people together, and that's what I'm talking about. That's what I want to focus on, because we have such a misconception of religion here in Northern Ireland. But the response was a bit mental, especially on like Facebook comments, whatever the articles and stuff. And I think, like, again, it's not even necessarily, because there's so many few comments from people that are actually religious that are talking, like, you know, to have an opinion on me going from a Catholic place to majority Protestant place. Sure. Because everyone, again, like the people don't practice their religion here, so everyone's like doing the whole like Catholic versus Protestant thing again, but they're doing it from the perspective of the Irish and the British thing. So it's really frustrating, because that's why I just keep pointing people towards Jesus. Like, just don't focus on any of the whole like religion, all that stuff. Like our church, like, just it's non-denominational. It's a Christian church, you know. It's in a Protestant area, and technically anything that's off of Catholicism is Protestant.
Sure.
You know? But the problem here again in Northern Ireland is all the stigma that's attached to that, and all the political leaders that, you know, have misused religion as a way to justify their own beliefs and desires, and all the troubles come with that. But that's what I say, like, men will always corrupt, you know, are always going to be corrupted, and they'll use anything they can to get what they want. But Jesus is uncorruptible, you know, he's perfect, and that's why you need to focus on having a relationship with him. Yeah,
very good. It is interesting, because like, I think those that are not from Northern Ireland think that we're fighting over, you know, doctrinal differences, right? So it's like, oh, you believe in indulgences, and we do. It's like, no, neither side believes this at all. That's not the case. It's very much sort of ethno-political, right? It's that kind of thing of like, your tribe, my tribe. And I do think, particularly in a Northern Irish context, it's really wise to term that well. I think you've done that well, and I think your pastor's done that well. Commend him for doing that, actually, because that's right. What we're not trying to do in the church anyway is get people in the unionism or in the Catholic Church. Let's be honest, on the other side, the aim would not be like Irish nationalism, right? That's not the goal. And so, you know, it's good to term that well. I think you've done that well. What about like family? What about friends and close friends and stuff like that? So not the sort of social media pushback, but more people you actually know. How have they received it? Have they seen a change in your life? Have they been positive about that?
So even to start, what you just previous
go ahead.
Political things and stuff. I made a video last month, and it was just kind of talking about how we should focus on the worldly labels that we attach ourselves, because when you realize that you're a child of God, none of that stuff matters. And that's the problem here again, like all the stuff that's attached to Protestantism and nominally, all the stuff that's attached to Catholicism, like the Irish and the IRA, UDL, all that the stuff that's been corrupted. Whereas like when you focus on understanding that you're a child of God, like it does solve a lot of stuff. It does solve a lot of stuff, like Jesus' teachings and all there, like loving your neighbors and love yourself. Like you can't get politics in the way whenever you see someone as another child of God, as a brother or sister in Christ, you know. But I think it's just, I don't know, I love that there. So yeah,
Northern Irish independence, that's the solution, right? We could just do our own thing and get on. That's it. We can solve it. Anyway, that's the kind of point.
That's what I'm even realizing with friendships and stuff as well. It's like, because I've declared myself, I'm a Christian, I'm a child of God. I'm not a Catholic, I'm not a Protestant. I'm proud. I'm a proud Irish man, 100%, but I don't make that my whole identity.
Sure.
You know, and even on that point, it makes me realize, like, people are always saying to me, like, oh, being a Christian's your only personality. I just realized a lot of people make being Irish or being British
right. Yeah.
Too. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah. And it kind of is your, and like, it's not, personality is maybe the wrong term. It is your identity.
Yes.
Like your identity changes when you become a Christian, right? And so, like, of course it changes your personality. Like it impacts you. You're still you, but you have this whole other core to your,
exactly. Like it's my heart's desires just changed. And the way I view things is so different. Like I've got so much more patience, and I don't know, like I love differently, and it's mad. But whenever it comes to like my friends and my family, it was definitely the hardest part whenever it came to, you know, Christianity. But I knew that I experienced the truth in that moment when I was saved, and there's no denying it, you know. And it's not because all of a sudden I'm brainwashed and follow a religious set of rules, or that, you know, the universe is giving me all of my desires. It's that relationship with Jesus that convicts me and makes me want, like, I want to impress him now. I don't want to impress the world, you know, and that's what continuously leads me on this walk of truth, you know. It's something I know I physically cannot deny. Someone had to point the gun on my head and say, deny Christ. I know I couldn't, because I know it is real, I know it is truth, and I know where I'm going. And I think that was the hardest part whenever you get saved and your whole identity is the club scene, you know. The whole identity is the influencer scene. The whole identity is making money, how you surround yourself, the people you surround yourself. We're all very much selfish for ourselves. Like, we want to make it and make X amount of money and get all this here stuff for the world, you know. So when I get saved, none of my friends are Christian, and if they were Christian, they weren't really Christian, you know. That
sure
they just labeled themselves a Christian. That's what I'm realizing even now. It's like people are saying they're Christians, but I know now what truth is, and I'm questioning, like, how do people call themselves a Christian if they're still living the exact same life I was living before I was saved, you know. And it was definitely hard, because it's not that I make an active decision to separate from my friends, you know. It's just that we don't have the same interests anymore. And, you know, you go up and like hang out with them, but it's always talking about, you know, the weekend, you know, getting drunk, like, oh, I'm act from the weekend. And, you know, it's always about, like, do you hear about what Jerry said to Adam, whatever, or do you hear about this or that? It's but whenever I sit in those environments now, I feel it's just polluting the spirit, you know. And it's only something you really understand whenever you do accept Christ as your savior, because it's not something that you can process with your brain. Like, people will look at me and say, just brainwash, just giving up your friends. It's not like that. It's like, I know the Spirit. I got the Holy Spirit residing in me now, and it's like, he hears what I hear, sees what I see, you know, and I have to protect that, you know. And I think that's the hardest part. It's not making an active decision of leaving your friends behind, because I'll actively share the gospel, but a lot of times people just don't want to hear that, you know. But there's been moments where people have flat out denied me, you know. Some best friends of mine, people on the social media scene as well, just saying that it's getting exhausting defending me, and that if I keep going down this path, that they can't associate with me anymore, you know. And it's mad to think about my love of Jesus is really stirring something up like that. And that's even moments like that I realize, like, the devil doesn't come as a big red man and point the horns and the pitchfork. You know, use people that are unsafe to get at you, you know. So in that moment, it was like I have to make a decision. Do I choose the world or do I choose God? And as hard as it is, I know the truth. I know what the truth is, and I choose God every time, you know. And people can't understand that. Like, God now, even though I've only been saved 4 months now, he will always come first. I will always put him first. If he doesn't want something in my life, then I'll release it. If he doesn't want me to go a certain direction or take a certain business move or a certain risk, then I will take it. Like, because I will lean in his own understanding, because he knows it's best for me. And it comes to the same thing with friends and family. Like, I know the truth now, and it is in Jesus. And for me, it's now just my parents and all. They thought when I first got saved, like my brothers and all, they thought, oh my goodness, he's lost the plot. Like, and the more I sit and talk to them and educate them, because again, they're coming, I understand where they're coming from.
Sure.
Because I was the same person until like 4 months ago. That's all that the world told me what religion was, but I never read scripture. I never, you know, had to learn anything about, you know, being born again. It was always about religion and always about politics here. So as the more I share with them, the more the walls are starting to come down. It's not because I'm trying to brainwash them, but because I know the pain my whole family experienced. We all experienced that pain. We've all been through a lot of awful stuff. And I know now God has released me from all that struggle. You know, he's released me from trauma I didn't even know I was carrying. You know, like like 3 different dads, and there was all this here like trauma when I was growing up that I didn't even know I was carrying. I would always joke about not really knowing my real dad, you know what I mean? But I watched this movie, and I can't remember exactly what it was called, but there was a moment where he realized like his dad had cancer, and he was starting to try to make himself a better person, and this guy was Christian and his dad wasn't, and then he found out he had cancer, and he realized that they can't be angry at him anymore because he's seeking Jesus. And then they came together. In that moment, I started bawling my eyes out, not because I was emotional at that, because through that, God revealed something to me that I was carrying a trauma, I was carrying struggle, and I was just, you know, negating it under the guise that, oh, it's just a joke. Oh, I don't really know my dad, haha. But there was like a lot of pain that I was carrying without even realizing that he set me free from. That's something you don't get from religion. You get that from a relationship, you know. And it wasn't even in that moment being like, it wasn't like I was ever really properly angry, but what God really does is mad. Like, it wasn't even that I was upset that I didn't know him. I was upset about what he would have felt, you know. Like, even my dad, like, I haven't seen him since I was 15, and like, I only knew him for a short period of time, but more seeing it from his perspective, like, I wonder, I just hope he knows peace. I pray for that moment, in the sense that who knows what he's going through, who knows what he feels about our relationship, who knows, does he feel like he's not good enough or whatever that may be. And I'm telling you, you don't get that whenever you're selfish and you live in the world. You get that through God, because you know the love of Jesus, and like, you can see people differently, you know. And so that's why for me, even though it's tough whenever it comes to like friends not wanting to associate with it, and friends and like family not really understanding, I know what the truth is, and it's my job to share that, because I know what God saved me from, and it'd be so selfish for me to have this gift and to not share it with anyone, you know.
Yeah. Give me some yes or no answers on the following questions, which ties into what you've said, right? So would you say that since coming to faith, you've become more joyful?
Absolutely.
Kinder? Absolutely. More patient?
100 million%.
So it's funny how you objectively, and do you think other people would agree that that's like that your character has shifted, right? Yeah. So you objectively have transformed for the better. Yep. And yet people have a problem with it now. That's funny, isn't it? Right? Yeah. And it's hard to know what to do with that, other than just go, yeah, people don't always know how to process things. People don't always, they maybe see that they're losing perhaps a friend in some way because they liked you the way you were. But it's been such a positive change that it's like, you'd hope that they'd understand that and want that. But anyway, we'll bless them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
even whatever comes out there sort of stuff, like, all I can do is pray for them.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Before, when I'm seeing people talk about me and friends behind my back and all, like, I'd just be so upset and annoyed. But I was like, no, like, I know what way they're living.
Yeah.
I was living the same way. So instead of me getting angry, there's so much power in forgiveness. You know, like, I'll forgive them because they don't know what they're doing, you know, and I'll just pray for them. And like, that's where that peace comes from. Like, you don't get that from the world. Like, the world tells you to be selfish and go out and, you know, eye for an eye, you know what I mean? Like, get back at them. And that doesn't give you peace, you know, like the joy in my heart, like no one can deny that. Like you can say I'm a lunatic or whatever, but like the joy I have in my heart, like it's something different. It's different from happiness, you know, which is fleeting and you're always seeking that, and it can come and go. But the joy in my heart, because I know the joy of the Lord, like it's different. It's always there. Doesn't matter if I have a good day or a bad day. I know my value in the eyes of God. If people say that whatever they want to say behind my back, it doesn't matter. I brush that off because I know my value in the eyes of God, you know.
Very good. So what would you say you've learned in the first sort of few months? When you come, it was January you said you came to faith, so what were you, like 4 months in, something like that? What would you say has been like one of the big things you've learned just in that time in your walk with God?
I think like for me, I've always been a loving person. You know, I always like, I wear my heart on my sleeve type of person. You know, I always look out for people and have the best interest for people and love people deeply. But I thought I knew what love was until I knew the love of Jesus. Like the more I seek his love, the more I'm able to give, you know. And, you know, you always heard about it years ago about, you know, just pouring up your cup so much that it overflows and the other people. And I realized it's a Christian thing.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Like it's just a sound that you hear, but God is the one, like there's only so much, like people lean on their own, like I was always leaning on my own understanding of trying to always fill up my own cup so that I can overflow and give on the other people, you know. But there's only so much you can do yourself, you know, and it's God that fills up that cup. It's God that gives me the peace in my heart. It gives me hope. It gives me joy. He loves me. He cares for me. He guides me through life, you know, and he's the one that fills up my cup. I can't do it on my own because the world is so destructive and awful. There's always so much pain and agony and suffering going on that it drags you down. And Northern Ireland, all the politics and frustrations and all ways you down, it makes it impossible to fill that cup up. But when you get Jesus, when I have Jesus as the foundation, that's everything else flows. Like the cup gets filled easy because I know my value in his eyes. You know, it's just seeking him daily, just having that relationship with him and knowing there's hope in him. Even if something bad happens, I know it's all happening for a reason. You hear that saying all the time, but it is in God's plan. Like even whenever I'm struggling or going through something I don't want to go through, but I'll never curse God. You know, I'll understand that there's a higher purpose for this because I saw it when I was 19. I had to go through that suffering. I saw it last year whenever I experienced the vanity and all the attention and all that other sort of stuff, because God's preparing me for something bigger, you know. And for me, it's like the way I think of it, it's like you're giving into I was given into the world, you know. People are always saying like, oh, Ged, like you're doing big things, but God called me and said, Ged Armstrong, like you're meant for bigger things. And that's the perspective shift, you know. And I lead not under my own understanding. No, I just stretch out my hand and let him lead, because I don't know everything. And I think that's, you know, even before, like I know people will say to me now, like, but you not think like during those moments you pulled yourself out, and like that's our understanding of the world from the selfish perspective. Like I know now, like God was helping me the entire time, and I can't deny that. You know, there's a reason why I'm still here, and I'm not just a statistic, because God had a plan for me. You know. Yeah.
You weren't the angel in the corner of your own room, right? There was a moment. There you go. That's preacher's comment right there. Very good. Here, we'll close with one last question here, which is this. So for those that maybe aren't Christians that have watched, and if they have got this far, well done to them, right? Yeah, fair play. Make your appeal. Why should someone who's not a Christian become one?
I think, if not for yourself, do it for others, you know, because the way I look at it, yeah, like I've got so much good stuff, but I know the impact it's going to have on other people, knowing that I am letting God lead me, and that I'm having more patience, more love, more kindness, more joy. People are looking at me, taking inspiration from that and seeking their own truth. You know, all roads lead to one place, you know. And so I'd say, like, don't even, I've been looking at it from the perspective of don't do it for yourself, do it for others. But then also, like, set aside all the religious beliefs, you know, set aside all the understanding of the word. Just try to take a fresh look at it. You know, don't look at it from all the things that people have already plotted in your head, but because people are corruptible, you know. But just seek truthfully in your own heart to find your understanding of who Jesus is. And trust me, when you start seeking Jesus, you will naturally begin to fall in love with him. And I will say, like, happiness is fleeting. You know, it's people always like seek, like, you know, you're always seeking that happiness. Like people think money gets you happiness, but money doesn't solve all the problems in the world. There's a reason why billionaires' kids are miserable. You know, it won't solve all the problems. It'll give you that momentary happiness, but the joy that God gives you is different. It's always there. Like you're always just there's always that sense of joy. Like I can't even say the word happiness because happiness is fleeting. So when you do seek actively Jesus, like it's not that you're going to, you know, transform into me where you become an absolute head case and go and evangelize. You know, God has a plan for you, and you have all these gifts and all these talents, but when you do it for him, it'll take you so much further, you know, because I know now, like everything I do, it's not because of my own selfish desires and greed. I want to make so much money, but not because of the way that I used to, because I wanted to, you know, have all the stuff. I wanted to do it because I want to have an impact. I want to help so much people. And I know that God knows my heart. And if he's for me, who can be against me? You know, he'll take me further than what I could or what other people could. So don't do it for yourself, do it for other people. But I don't know, I think there's a whole conversation there about prosperity preaching and
sure.
stuff that just seek him first. Like,
yeah,
if I can go through all that trouble in my life and God has just took out all the bad stuff and compressed all the good and made me into this like new person that is just so happy. You know, people, I used to look at Christians thinking, you know, weirdos and lunatics because you are always so happy, but I was living in misery, so it just didn't make sense to me. But now I'm on the other side and I see the joy, and that's why it's like I just want people to know that joy. Like I just want people to know that it hurts my heart to see so much suffering in the world, and that whenever you put God first, everything else will flow and it will just amplify. It's just, everything's a sweetener now. You know, when you're living in the world cannot give you this joy, you know, but when you have God as the foundation, all the stuff that you wanted before becomes a sweetener because you already know where you're going in your heart. You already know how valuable the relationship with Jesus is. That comes first and foremost. You could lose everything. I could lose everything, and I would still be whole and complete because I have the Holy Spirit, you know.
Very good. Well, that's a great place to leave it. Thank you so much.
100%.